Welcome to the Shocking History Photos channel, exploring the past like you've never seen it before. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and uncover more hidden gems from history. You think you know the Wild West? Think again. These rare photos reveal a side of the frontier that's far from the Hollywood version. Gritty, raw, and full of untold stories. From eerie ghost towns, abandoned overnight, to fearless outlaws and the lawmen who hunted them, these images will take you straight into the heart of the untamed frontier. What you're about to see will challenge everything you thought you knew about the Wild West. Let's embark on this journey by exploring the notorious figures who walk the fine line between law and chaos. This is Billy the Kid, arguably the most infamous outlaw of the Wild West. What makes this photo so extraordinary is that it's one of only two known authenticated images of him. Found in a dusty old photo album, this tintype provides a haunting glimpse into the face of a young man who would go on to become a legend of lawlessness. But who was Billy the Kid, really? Was he a ruthless killer or a misunderstood outlaw fighting to survive in a brutal time? Now meet the man who brought Billy the Kid's story to its bloody end, Pat Garrett. This rare image shows Garrett with his posse, including several rugged men who live by the gun. Garrett became famous for killing Billy the Kid, but what most people don't know is that Garrett himself met a violent end, ambushed and murdered years later in an eerily similar fashion to the outlaws he hunted. Wanted posters were a staple of frontier towns, and none were more famous than this one for Jesse James. But here's something you may not have seen: a rare photo of Jesse James with his wife and son, taken shortly before his assassination in 1882. This photo reveals a different side to the infamous outlaw, showing him as a family man. But make no mistake, Jesse James led some of the most daring robberies in American history, from banks to trains, always staying one step ahead of the law.
Bringing outlaws like Jesse James to justice required relentless effort from frontier lawmen. This image showcases a group of these brave individuals, united in their mission to uphold the law. They faced constant peril, striving to maintain order in a land often ruled by chaos. While sheriffs protected their towns, groups of men often formed posse to track down outlaws across miles of rugged terrain. This photo shows one such posse, armed and prepared for the hunt. These missions were grueling and fraught with danger, but they were the only way to bring fugitives to justice. The aftermath of frontier crime was often brutal. This photo shows the scars left behind: a building riddled with bullet holes, a stark reminder of the violence that marked the Wild West. Every shootout and robbery left a lasting impression on these small frontier towns. The Wild West wasn't just about outlaws and lawmen. It was also a land where ordinary people fought incredible odds to survive and build their lives. Let's move beyond the chaos and explore rare photos of daily life on the frontier, where grit and resilience reigned.
Life on the frontier was far from glamorous. This rare photo of a family cabin gives us a glimpse of the stark reality settlers faced every day. These cabins, often built by hand, using whatever wood or stone was available, were barely large enough to house an entire family. But for many, this was the best shelter they could hope for against the harsh weather and unforgiving wilderness. Some settlers couldn't even afford wood for a cabin and turned to building homes out of sod, thick, compacted dirt and grass. This photo captures the ingenuity of frontier families who transformed the sparse resources of the prairie into shelter. But sod houses weren't without their drawbacks. Heavy rains often caused leaks, and the walls were known to be home to insects and even snakes. Education on the frontier was a luxury. This rare image of a one-room schoolhouse shows just how simple learning spaces were. Teachers often worked with little more than a chalkboard and a handful of books, but their efforts laid the foundation for future generations. Many of the children in this photo likely walked miles just to attend school, often in extreme weather conditions. The general store was the lifeline of frontier towns, offering everything from food to farming tools. This photo shows the inside of a small town store, a place where settlers would trade goods, share news, and connect with their community. But supplies were expensive, and shortages were common. Many families had to make do with what little they could afford, or barter for what they needed.
Food was another constant challenge on the frontier. For most families, meals were simple and repetitive: homemade bread, salted meat, and whatever crops they could grow. This photo shows a family working together to gather food, a reminder of how survival required resilience, resourcefulness, and teamwork. For many, failure to grow enough food wasn't just an inconvenience, it could mean starvation.
Even the most basic tasks were grueling for frontier women, whether fetching water, cooking over an open fire, or washing clothes by hand. These everyday chores demanded back-breaking effort. This image shows women at work, a testament to their tireless determination to keep their families going. For the families who braved the frontier, daily life was a test of endurance and creativity. But despite the challenges, they built the foundations of communities that would one day thrive. In the next section, we'll turn our attention to some of the most unexpected figures of the Wild West, the women who shattered stereotypes and left their mark on history. Meet Calamity Jane, a woman who defied every expectation of her time. This rare photo shows her in rugged frontier attire, a rifle slung across her shoulder. Jane wasn't just a sharpshooter. She was a scout, storyteller, and fierce advocate for those in need. While some called her a wild woman, others saw her as a hero. Her life was a testament to resilience and the power of challenging societal norms. While Calamity Jane roamed the frontier, Annie Oakley dazzled audiences with her unmatched marksmanship. This image of Annie in her show costume reminds us of how she redefined what it meant to be a woman in the Wild West. Not only did she compete against men in shooting competitions, she beat them, becoming a worldwide sensation in the process. Annie's incredible skill and poise made her a pioneer for women everywhere. But the Wild West wasn't just about famous names. This rare photo of women ranchers shows how countless ordinary women took on roles traditionally held by men. These women weren't just helping, they were leading, running ranches, herding cattle, and proving that frontier life didn't discriminate when it came to hard work.
For some women in the Wild West, life took them far from the fields and into the heart of bustling frontier towns. This image shows women who ran businesses, managed boarding houses, or worked in shops, roles that placed them at the center of community life. These women carved out their own paths in a world dominated by men, proving that survival in the Wild West wasn't just about gunfights, but about resilience, ambition, and adaptability.
Frontier women often had to be their own protectors. This photo of a woman guarding her homestead with a rifle captures the harsh realities of life in the Wild West. With men often away working or fighting, women had no choice but to defend their homes from threats like wild animals, outlaws, or even hostile raids. Their courage and independence were essential for survival. The Wild West was also a surprising battleground for women's rights. This rare photo of suffragettes in a frontier town shows how women fought for their voices to be heard, even in the harshest conditions. States like Wyoming were among the first to grant women the right to vote, proving that the frontier wasn't just a place of hardship, it was a place of progress. The women of the Wild West shattered every stereotype, proving that strength and determination had no gender. From ranches to saloons, and even the fight for equality, their stories continue to inspire. In the next section, we'll explore another side of the Wild West, Native American life, and the profound challenges faced by the original inhabitants of this land. This is Sitting Bull, one of the most iconic leaders of the Lakota Sioux. This rare photo captures his strength and wisdom, a reminder of the courage it took to stand against westward expansion. Sitting Bull played a key role in the resistance to U.S. forces, including the legendary victory at the Battle of Little Bighorn. But his life, like so many others, ended in tragedy, marked by betrayal and violence. While leaders like Sitting Bull fought to protect their people, everyday families struggled to hold on to their way of life. This rare image of a Native American family shows the beauty of their traditions, ornate clothing, intricately designed teepees, and a deep connection to the land. But as westward expansion continued, many families were forced from their homes and onto reservations, where survival became even more difficult. Not all stories from this time are ones of resilience. This haunting photo of Native children in a boarding school shows the devastating impact of assimilation policies. Forced to abandon their language, clothing, and traditions, Generations of Native Americans were subjected to cultural erasure. These schools were meant to civilize them, but the cost was the loss of their identity. Despite immense hardship, Native American tribes found ways to preserve their beliefs. This photo of a ghost dance ceremony reveals how spiritual traditions became a source of hope and resistance. The ghost dance was more than a ritual. It was a prayer for the return of their lands, the buffalo, and a way of life stolen from them. Tragically, this practice also led to one of the darkest chapters in U.S. history, the Wounded Knee Massacre. Amid the conflicts of the Wild West, some Native Americans served as scouts for the U.S. military. This rare image of Native scouts shows the complexity of their roles. They were both allies and protectors, navigating a dangerous world where loyalties were often blurred. These scouts played critical roles in exploration and combat, but their contributions are rarely recognized in history books. For many tribes, the forced relocation to reservations was the harshest reality of all. This photo of a barren reservation landscape speaks to the loss of freedom and land that Native Americans endured. Yet even in these desolate places, they found ways to survive, adapt, and preserve their culture for future generations. The Native American story of the Wild West is one of immense loss, but also of incredible resilience. Their traditions, courage, and connection to the land remain an enduring legacy of this era. In the next section, we'll explore another group that left its mark on the frontier, the immigrants and diverse communities who helped shape the Wild West. This photo of Chinese railroad workers tells a story often forgotten in the romanticized view of the Wild West. Thousands of Chinese laborers played a vital role in constructing the Transcontinental Railroad, an achievement that connected the nation and transformed the frontier. But their contribution came at a cost. They faced grueling conditions, dangerous work, and constant discrimination. Despite these challenges, their resilience helped shape the infrastructure that defined the West. Long before the cowboy became a symbol of the American West, there were the vaqueros. This rare image of Mexican cattle herders highlights their expertise and cultural influence. Vaqueros introduced roping techniques, horseback skills, and much of the ranching culture we associate with the Wild West today. Yet their contributions are often overshadowed in popular history. The dream of a better life drew thousands of European immigrants to the frontier. This photo of a Scandinavian family outside their sod home illustrates both the hope and hardship they faced. Many immigrants came with little more than the clothes on their backs, but through sheer determination, they built farms, towns, and thriving communities across the West. The image of the cowboy is often portrayed as exclusively white, but in reality, African Americans made up an estimated 1/4 of all cowboys. This photo shows black cowboys who worked the cattle drives, breaking stereotypes and proving their skill in a challenging and dangerous profession. Despite their contributions, they too faced prejudice and exclusion in the frontier's emergent society. The West's gold and silver mines were a melting pot of cultures. This photo of miners from different backgrounds, Chinese, Irish, Mexican, and others, illustrates how the search for fortune brought people together despite deep-seated tensions. While they shared in the back-breaking labor, opportunities were often unequal, with immigrant workers paid far less than their white counterparts. Immigrants from Mexico not only contributed labor, but also brought rich cultural traditions that continue to shape the region today. This photo of a Mexican family outside their adobe home highlights the blending of cultures that defined the frontier, from cuisine to language to architecture. The Wild West wasn't just shaped by outlaws, lawmen, or even pioneers. It was built by the contributions of diverse communities who brought their skills, culture, and determination to this unforgiving land. In the final section, we'll uncover some of the most surprising and quirky moments captured on camera during the Wild West era. Fashion in the Wild West wasn't just functional, it could also be downright bizarre. This photo shows an early attempt at frontier fashion with a mix of materials that look more like a costume than clothing. But practicality often trumped style, and these outfits were designed to survive the harsh elements, no matter how strange they looked. Ghost towns like this one are haunting reminders of the boom and bust cycles of the Wild West. This photo captures a once thriving mining town abandoned almost overnight when the gold and silver ran out. These towns left to decay tell a story of fleeting fortune and the impermanence of frontier life. Festivals in the Wild West could be just as quirky as its people. This photo of a frontier festival shows participants dressed in strange, elaborate costumes, celebrating everything from harvests to local legends. These gatherings were a rare chance for settlers to let loose and find joy amid the hardships of daily life. The Wild West was a time of innovation, but not every idea was a success. This photo of an oversized handmade plow is an example of how settlers tried to adapt to the harsh environment. While some inventions transformed frontier life, others, like this one, were more of a spectacle than a solution. Saloons were infamous for their rowdiness, and this photo captures the aftermath of what was likely a wild night. With bullet holes in the walls and overturned furniture, it's easy to imagine the chaos that unfolded. For many, saloons were places of escape, where fortunes, and sometimes lives, could be lost in the blink of an eye. Yes, you saw that right, a pet bear. This quirky photo shows settlers who kept a bear cub as a pet, proving that life on the frontier wasn't just about survival, it also had its fair share of oddities. While it's hard to imagine keeping a bear as a companion, it certainly makes for one of the more unique stories of the Wild West. The Wild West wasn't just a place of grit and survival, it was also a land of eccentricity, creativity, and unexpected moments. These quirky photos remind us that even in the toughest times, people found ways to laugh, innovate, and leave behind stories that continue to amaze us. Which of these moments surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more incredible stories and rare photos from history.